Okay, it's 4 minutes past the starting time, so I think we will begin. And Mikhailo, please keep letting people in if they join. So thank you all for being here today, and a big welcome to everyone. My name is Petra. I will be guiding you through this session today. Before we get started, I would like to invite as many of you as possible to turn on your cameras. It makes all the experience much lovelier. Also, if you feel like it, you can use emojis. I think there is some tool on the Zoom bar for that. So what are we here for today? We are diving into our latest open call. Officially, it's called Support for International Showcasing of Co-Creation Projects. I know it's quite long, but don't worry. During this session, we're going to break it down together, step by step, so it makes perfect sense to you. And just a quick note before we dive into today's English session, if you prefer to get all this information in Ukrainian, we have another presentation coming up on July 22nd. If that sounds more comfortable for you, you can already sign up at zmina.eu. Also, some of you may have heard, we are recording this session, so don't worry if you don't catch every single detail right now, you'll have the video to come back to later. Our goal today is to give you all the practical advice you need to make your application process as smooth as possible. But I won't be doing it all alone today. I will have two colleagues from Izolatia team joining me, and they're going to walk you through budgeting details and share some crucial do's and don'ts for the submission process. We also have some more our team members hanging out in the chat to support you. So if you have any questions, you can write your questions in the chat, and they're here to provide answers for you. This is what you can expect today. We hope to wrap everything up in about 60 to 90 minutes. And this is an overview of what we're going to talk about. First, we'll talk about the basics of Zmina Resilience. So who's doing the project, what is it all about, and why are we doing it? Then we'll talk about objectives and the showcasing call. We will talk about who can apply, what is mandatory, and what we want to achieve by this open call. We will demystify the formal guidelines. So I will give you practical examples to help you navigate the official open call framework. We will talk about budgets, funding limits, co-financing, what will be lump sums and what will be actual costs in your projects. We will discuss in detail evaluation and tech assessment. So there are some selection criteria, and there needs to be a technical check for all projects that are submitted. Finally, we will show you the timeline of the entire open call and when you can expect to have results. We are always trying to provide as good service and help as possible. So we would like to ask you to share your feedback after this event. You can scan the QR code now and have it ready, but I will show you the QR code later at the end of the presentation, and we very much appreciate your feedback. So we're starting. Let's introduce our project that is called Zmina Resilience. First of all, Zmina means change in Ukrainian language. So this change is deeply rooted in all our efforts. And we are talking about change towards integration of Ukrainian cultural and artistic organizations into European landscape. We are also hoping to contribute to helping you make some meaningful steps towards inclusion, towards thinking about green issues in your activities, and towards knowledge sharing and peer sharing among organizations. Zmina Resilience will be running for 36 months. It's a long project that started in August 2025, and it will run until August 2028. It is co-funded by a Creative Europe program, and our total budget is over 2 million euros. Most amount of money from this sum is being redistributed during funding open calls to international projects created in cooperation between Ukrainian organizations and organizations in other Creative Europe countries. And throughout this whole presentation, I will be saying we, but when I say we, I actually mean 3 organizations. So I will tell you who we are. So the leader of our project is called Izolatia. It's a foundation based in Kyiv, Ukraine, and they are responsible for the sub-granting program of Zmina Resilience. Mali Berlin, which is the co-organizer of Zmina Resilience, is a cultural center based in Trnava, Slovakia. We are responsible for communication, for dissemination activities, but also for capacity building program of Zmina Resilience. And we have a third partner. It's called Trans-Europe Halls. It's a network of independent cultural centers based in Lund, Sweden. And here are some key figures for this showcasing open calls. Total funding available is almost 1 million euros, but the maximum grant amount that you can apply for is 50,000 euros. So we expect to support many projects in this open call. This sum of money, 50,000 euros, should cover up to 90% of total costs of your project. And you must cover 10% of this, of your project as your own contribution in monetary form. We expect to support from 19 to 25 projects in this open call. And very important information for all of you is that this open call is a rolling call, which means it will be open for 16 months with the deadlines every 3 to 4 months. This means that the submitted applications will be reviewed and selected after every round deadline. Now, let's take a good look at the open call objectives. Now, I will read the official statement from the open call text, and it's pretty long, but we will talk about the details in just a moment. So this open call is designed to support projects that bring artistic and cultural works co-created by Ukrainian and other Creative Europe cultural organizations to wider audiences through public showcasing and presentation events in Ukraine and across Creative Europe countries. So this is the long sentence. But in plain speak, what you need is a pre-existing collaboration between a Ukrainian organization and an organization from a different Creative Europe country. It needs to be a cultural or artistic work, and we are not interested in how this was created or how it was funded. The funding open call is designed for you to showcase and tour these pre-existing co-creations. It's also designed to explore the themes of resilience in any art or cultural form, except audiovisual. And you are required to hold a minimum of 6 public presentation events. But this is very important. These presentation events cannot take place in the home city or town of any of the applicant organizations. This rule has a very good reason. Since this open call provides support to existing collaborative works, we assume that you have already shown the work to your primary hometown audiences. We want to bring the work you created to different and wider audiences. Let's talk about who can apply. All the time we refer to organizations. This is not meant for single artists. So these organizations need to be working in arts or cultural sectors. They need to be registered in Creative Europe countries. You will receive this presentation after the end of this event, and you can check the list of European and non-European countries that are included in Creative Europe program, and it is always best to check if the country that you want to collaborate with is on that list to make sure. For Ukraine, there is a specific rule. The organizations, they need to be registered in territories under the effective control of the Ukrainian government. Project proposals are submitted by a single lead applicant, but the project must include at least 2 partner organizations, one from Ukraine and one from a different Creative Europe country. There can be more organizations in your project, and there could be more countries involved, as long as they are they are all in Creative Europe country. All partners have equal rights and joint responsibility for providing correct data for submitted application and for reporting. This is very important. And your partnership that you are building upon or you are recreating must reflect genuine balance and exchange. It should not be a formality. So no matter how your previous collaboration was, this needs to be equally distributed in this showcasing funding open call. Because we are looking to facilitate knowledge exchange, skills exchange, education exchange, experiences exchange, and partnership building between organizations. So each partner should play an equally important role. They should bring equal value, contribute to reaching audiences in all participating countries. Before we move to what activities can be funded, there are some important notes for this showcasing open call. The projects that you will submit should maximize the visibility, the audience reach, sustainability, and future showcasing potential of these works. We will talk about this in detail in a selection criteria later in the presentation. Supported projects are expected to include active cooperation between partners to adapt those works to new audiences, for example, by adapting to new contexts, by providing translations, by involving local artists, experts, and communities, and so on. All creative and cultural sectors are eligible, except for the audiovisual sector. This is because Zmina Resilience is funded by Creative Europe program, and European Commission provides support to audiovisual sector separately via media program. Intellectual property of supported projects will remain with the project partners. They do not transfer to Zmina Resilience Consortium. Now let's see what activities can be funded by Zmina Resilience Showcasing Open Call. So basically, it's all activities necessary for the preparation and delivery of the showcasing and presentation events. These might include public presentation events. And for Ukraine, we are also accepting hybrid or online formats due to the security situation. You can cover preparations, rehearsals, production costs, anything related to the presentations and showcasing events. You can cover travel and for organizational purposes, for rehearsals, and for presentation purposes. It is very important to note that there is a minimum required number of presentation events. So all projects must include at least 3 presentation events in each of at least 2 countries, one of which must be Ukraine. We will see how this looks in my examples, because this is a very complicated sentence. Another important note is that presentation events cannot take place in the home city or town of any of the applicant organizations. We talked about this a couple of minutes ago. This is because what we want to achieve is to widen and scale up the audience for your work. So what these presentation and showcasing events can look like? They can take various forms, they can have different aims. For example, what you can do is to create and present an event showcasing your original co-creation work, such as theater play, exhibition, dance, and music performances, and mixed media and art exhibitions. You can hold a debate, for example, on the themes and topics of the original co-creation work. You can hold a presentation of the original co-creation work, providing important highlights, struggles, lessons learned to share knowledge and skills with the general public or specific audiences in cultural sector. All in all, you can host any kind of event that scales up the audience for your existing work. And these events should share the theme of resilience. So to make this as simple as possible, I try to make up 3 scenarios for you to map out what you can do with this showcasing open call. So in my example, A, you have already had a cooperation project in place and you would like to tour your respective countries with it. So let's say you are a Slovak organization based in Trnava and you cooperated with an Ukrainian organization based in Lviv. And you want to make these presentation events, so you choose 3 cities or towns in your countries. So in Slovakia, I chose Bratislava, Žilina, and Košice because those are big cities. They have great audiences built for cultural events, and it makes a total sense to scale up this way. So what I do as an organization is that I find local actors, I engage them with the production, and I pay them with my budget. And the same thing basically happens for the Ukrainian organization. It also looks up for new venues, for new organizations that can help her bring the work to new audiences and uses her budget for funding these activities. This is kind of a small budget project, but it can work in this framework. Let's say you want to scale things up a little and you want to add a new partner from one of the countries that are already involved in the project. So it's the same Slovak organization, same Ukrainian organization, and we want to scale up the audience mostly in Slovakia by making the promotion bigger, to use media coverage and to have overall more manpower for the project. So we add one more partner, Slovak organization based in Košice, which is a different town from Trnava. And again, we can make 3 presentation events in Bratislava, Žilina, and Košice. And if you choose to do this like this, it is very important to explain in your application that the Košice audience was not included in your original presenting of your work. It is possible, but it needs to be very clear in your application. For the third and final example, I am showing you an example of how to scale up to a different country. I chose France. You can choose 2 countries, perhaps. But what you need to think about, and the most important thing is that you have to make 3 presentation events in Ukraine all the time. But if you do an example collaboration like this, that you have a Slovak organization, which is original, Ukrainian original organization, and a new French organization, then you can decide how to divide the next 3 events between those 2 partners that are not Ukrainian partners. So in this example, I decided to make 1 presentation event in Bratislava because it's a capital city of Slovakia and it makes total sense for scaling up the presentation of our work. And I chose 2 cities in France. So this is the rule that we talked about previously, that you have to have at least 3 presentation events in Ukraine and at least 3 presentation events in other Creative Europe countries. And you can split it as you see in the example. You can make more events as this, but you have to always think about how to include those events in your budgets to make it work for you. Now, I hope it is a bit clearer now what you can do and what you need to do with showcasing funding. And I would like to invite Oksana Zawszenska-Krawczenko, a director of Izolacja Foundation, to present information about budgets.
Thank you, Petra. Okay. And after all of explanations during previous slides, now we are going to speak about budget. In total, for this rolling call, we have the budget mostly 950,000 euro, and each grant is maximum 50,000. Speaking about 50,000, it means that this amount must cover not more than 90% from the total budget of your project. So it means that 10% of the total budget need to be covered as cost share from all of the partner organization who will join to implementing the project. How to calculate 90%? 90% doesn't, how to calculate 10% of co-financing. It doesn't mean that you have, for instance, 50,000 grant and 10% it makes 5,000. No, you need to have the total amount of your budget and then split into 90% and 10%. So it means each time a bit more when you calculate directly from the grant amount. When you will work with application form, you will see that our platform will support you with these calculations. In case you will have the questions, you can come back to us to the technical support in this case. But to avoid the mistakes in calculation of this 10% of co-financing, we're implementing this function already into our platform. As already was mentioned, that each of the partner will receive it's part of the budget. For instance, you will have 3 partners. So by filling in the budget form on our platform, you will choose partner 1, partner 2, or partner 3. You will indicate the budget lines for each of the partners. In case one of the partners will have the co-financing, so you need to mark yes. So everything should be very clear in our platform. In this case, and when all the budget will be filled in by all of the partners, so you work with the budget altogether by all of the partners, but only one of the partner who will apply via platform will fill all the information on the platform. As a rule, we will pre-finance 70% of the grant budget dedicated to each of the partners. So it means, for instance, the grant for Ukrainian partner makes 10,000. And for the first tranche, we will pay to Ukrainian organization 70% of this 10,000 of the grant amount. The last 30%, or if you will spend a bit less money, so the difference of the total budget, we will pay to you after all activities will be finished and after you will submit your financial and narrative reports. We need a time for checking all the figures, and then we will confirm the reports and send the second tranche. Speaking about co-financing, co-financing is mandatory. It means in case the factual budget, when we will check everything together with you, and if we will see that the co-financing was less than 10%, so your grant amount will be proportionally less. That's why during implementation period, you need to be very careful with all the budget checking and having a look how really amounts in euro you co-financed to avoid the situation that your co-financing was less than 10%. Then I will speak about very general rules about financial. how to about eligibility of cost. You know, the double funding within all EU budget is not permitted. So in case you will receive the funding from Zmina Resilience, it means that for co-financing, sorry, for co-financing, it is not permitted to use the money from other Creative Europe program. For instance, because Izolatia receives money from Creative Europe program for these calls, and we need to not overlap everything what was funded by EU Commission. So that's why you need to have a look on the sources of your co-financing. For co-financing, you may use your own funds or all other sources, financial sources, which you can receive on your organization, but not from EU budget. So not from Creative Europe program or other organs which are funded by EU Commission. Speaking the next, all costs which will be used during project implementation need to be used as real costs, not as in kind, and everything should be very transparent on your bank accounts and in your accounting system. And speaking about cost rates, you can see that we have both lump sums and actual costs. For lump sums, they are marked green. We have artist work, international travel, local travel, green travel, accommodation with per diems, and visa costs if required. For lump sums, all the rules for reporting are the same as for lump sum. It means, for instance, if the ticket was less than, for instance, 350 euro, you need to report this amount. But every time you need to be careful that this trip you need to report as by some documents confirming that it was real happened. For actual costs, you can use for equipment delivery, for instance, for materials and adaptation for your production budget. For the production budget, it means not to create a new work because we have showcasing call, but in case some of the adaptation need to be done, you can use this as actual cost. So services needed for your showcasing, communication, marketing, documentation, and management. For management and administration, as you can see, we have the limit, maximum 20% of overall budget. For now, it's all with the rates. And we foreseen all the information presenting here in our form, in our application. So it should be very clear in our understanding how to fill in the budget. Not nothing new for you. I mean, and it should be, yeah, maybe one important note, when you will work with your budget, the budget distribution in between the partners can be sometimes not proportional. When we are speaking about equal work of partners, it doesn't work the same for budgets, because sometimes equal work, it's okay for general administration and general input for the project. But speaking about the budget, you need to foresee how to, when more presentations or more visible presentations will be done. So that's why the budget could be split in different proportions in between the partners. The same is for co-financing. Co-financing can be covered by one of the partner or proportionally by all of the partners or in any amounts in between the partners. So the main rule is in total to achieve minimum 10% of the overall budget. So I hope that all this can be clear. Thank you.
All done, Oksana? Okay, thank you so much. And we're moving to selection criteria. There are 4 selection criterias. First, you need to pass technical eligibility check. This is done by Zmina Resilience team. They check if you have provided all the documents for your organization or if your papers are all properly signed and so on. Then there is assessment by 2 independent experts. They provide a score for each of the projects which works as a guide because the final decision is made by selection committee and it takes into consideration other factors like geography and sectoral and thematic diversity. And for the next part of the presentation, I would like to invite Polina Niukina. Not sure if I pronounced you properly, I'm sorry. She's the head of project management team in Izolatia, and she will walk you through all the important information for submitting your project.
Yes, thank you, Petra. I will share my screen and let me know if you see my slide. I believe that yes. Yes? Okay. So let's talk about the technical side of submission. And I want to be very detailed here because this is a critical point that could fail your project for reasons that have nothing to do with quality of your project. And every single rule I'm about to guide you through has already been broken by real applicants. So it is not like, hypothetical list of things that could go wrong. No, that's a list of things what actually already went wrong in previous rounds. So please bear with me for the next, I believe, 12 minutes. The first advice, please submit early. Our team will not be able to support you in last minutes. For instance, if something goes wrong quarter till midnight of the closing day or 5 minutes past midnight after the closing day, there is nothing we can do to help you. So, my advice is very simple. Submit with time to spare. Check your documents in advance and follow our step-by-step instruction we have prepared specifically for your convenience. Of course, we will send you presentation after the event, so you will have these do's and don'ts in writing, not just in your memory. So our first, I can't swatch the slide for some reasons, but why? Oh, yeah. Do you see the slide, the Ukrainian organization's registration document?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, but something from different reasons I cannot switch it for some minutes. Okay, as you are applying in the consortium with your Ukrainian partner, it's obviously instruction for them, but please make sure they are completely following this instruction because it is the most common failure point we see. Problems with the registration documents from Ukrainian side. For Ukrainian organization, it is needed to upload an extract, not an excerpt. This sounds similar In Ukrainian, it's like витяг and виписка, but they are different documents, and only the first, the extract, витяг, is accepted. Also, it's better, it's must, not better, but must get this document from the official source .gov.ua, not from Open Data Bot, U-Control, or any similar third-party service. And please also check the date carefully, because it must be issued after June 15th, 2026. A document issued before the call was announced will not be accepted. Also, make sure your Ukrainian partners follows our step-by-step instruction for getting this exactly right. You have this instruction in the bottom of the slide. As for registration document for non-Ukrainian partners from the Creative Europe states, we will need your original document in the national language plus a full English translation. So, for instance, upload the original, don't submit only the translation. Or don't submit only the original without a translation either. No, you need both side by side. There is only one exception if your original document is already issued in English. So, in that case, just upload it as is in English, and you don't need an unnecessary extra translation. Also, if your organization is a structural division of a larger entity, for example, you are faculty of the large university, make sure that the document confirms that specific status and attach your internal regulations. A generic registration document that does not reflect this won't be sufficient. So, two important notes regarding your registration documents as partners from Creative Europe states. No translation is needed if the original is already in English, and notarization is never required for this registration document. Next is the statute. Three things matter here: all pages, correct language, and uploaded to the correct field. So you need to upload the complete document, not an excerpt of it, and submit both the original and English translation. Don't send us only the translation, please. Make sure it goes into the statute field of the form, not somewhere else. For example, to the field for the registration documents. If your legal form does not require the statute, don't leave this field empty or like upload this placeholder just to get past the form. Instead, upload a signed letter of explanation there. So we would see justification why you have no statute. The next point is a letter of guarantee. The letter of guarantee follows a strict rule: one letter per organization. So if you have, for example, 3 partners, you should have 3 separate letters. Never combine 2 organizations into one. And please follow the template exactly as provided. So I mean, don't change, remove, or rephrase any of prescribed texts. Also, fill in both the Ukrainian and English section and sign both of them. So you will have the letter and 2 signatures per letter, not the one signature that span the both sections. Also, please apply your corporate seal on the letter of guarantee, or if the corporate seal is not applicable to your organization, for instance, state that clearly in writing. Also, please include the full name of position of the person signing. Initials alone are not enough, unfortunately. And of course, again, upload a scanned copy of an actually signed document to a right field of the application form. Speaking about document fields and file requirements, believe me, it's important, and a lot of applicants are mistaken with this. So the rule is the first rule, upload each document to its designated field. For instance, don't put the letter of guarantee where the statute should go or vice versa. And the second, submit everything in PDF format. No Word files, no JPGs, no other format, please only PDF. And please make sure your files are password free and double check that every file opens correctly before you submit. Because corrupted or restricted file can cause problems at this stage of technical assessment. About the partners and budgeting. Every organization listed in your budget needs match supporting documents. It's crucial. Don't leave any partner without documentation. And please make sure that the number of organizations in your budget exactly matches the documents you have submitted. Confirm each partner's eligibility before adding them to the budget. Because if you add a partner first and plan to sort out their documents later, you might forget it and it would impact this technical assessment stage. A bit confusing for our partners from Creative Europe states row or tickle box, temporary occupied territory. This field requires one clear answer with no ambiguity for every single partner, even from Creative Europe states. I mean, mark yes for each partner in your consortium if that organization is registered in non-occupied territory. Don't assume that these questions applies only to the Ukrainian partner. It applies to every organization in the consortium. So please double check every partner's answer before you submitting. And if anyone marked it incorrectly, correct it before you submit. As for the arts and culture profile, your organization work in a field of arts and culture needs to be visible from your documents, not just assumed. Don't rely on organization name or reputation to make this obvious. It needs to be clearly stated in your registration document and your statute and demonstrated into the application itself. In case if it is not obvious from your existing documents, please use the additional materials section to state and explain your arts and culture profile. Moreover, how do you plan to work in a new field of arts and culture? Because we really need to know this. Sometimes documents won't perfectly match what's expected and what is signed in the call requirements, and that's not automatically disqualifying you as long as you handled it correctly. So you would have additional materials section on the bottom of your application form. Use it, please, to explain any deviation. So you should note every difference you are aware of in your registration documents, for instance, your statute, your letter of guarantee. And the rule is simple. Unexplained deviation means that eligible requirements is not met. But an explained deviation can be considered on its merits. So when you interrupt, please explain it again in the right field. And finally, it's my last slide, I believe, a few practical notes regarding our platform itself. First, character counter. Always trust the platform character counter, not a count you got from Word or Google Docs. So, I mean, paste your text into the platform and verify the counter here. There. Save your progress regularly. It's crucial also. If you step away from your laptop and if you are inactive, save and close the session. Because the platforms logs you out automatically after a long period of inactivity and any unsaved progress could be lost. So don't leave the form open for a long time, and please don't assume that your session will last like forever. To be very, very honest, our biggest hope at this stage that before you submit the application, you'll go back to this checklist and double check every single point against it. Because most of the issues we see aren't about the quality of the project. They are about small technical details that could have been caught before submitting. So please use these checklists, and I believe that it's all from my side. I'm stop sharing the screen. Petra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paulina, for this very detailed and precise overview of the usual mistakes. I think it's always best to understand why some rules are in place to avoid thinking that some details are minor or can or will be overlooked. So thank you so much. We are almost at the end of today's presentation, so maybe it will be the promised 60 minutes, but don't leave me just yet. First, so we just heard that you need to pass the technical assessment, and only after that your project can go to independent evaluators. The first criteria that they will evaluate will be relevance. So they will check the compatibility of the project with the core objectives. So when you're writing your application, you need to consider the theme of resilience, how to make your work relevant to this topic and to the audiences, as well as you need to consider the approach you will take to widening and scaling up your audiences. They will also consider potential of the collaboration as a space for intellectual dialogue. We talked about this already. So what we hope to achieve is to promote as much knowledge sharing, as much skills sharing, experience sharing among the partners. Consider how your cooperation will work, how deeply your organization will be connected, and what you can actually share amongst each other. The quality of the project will take an important role in the evaluation. So first, there are cross-cutting themes like digital dimension, ecological sustainability, inclusion, and accessibility. These topics are very important to European Commission, and so they are important to us as well. We are building a resource library for you at zmina.eu, so you can so in case you are unsure in these topics, we welcome you to browse the library. It's not complete yet, but we are filling it up as we speak, let's say. Make sure that all these topics, and I really mean all, are mentioned and discussed in your application, even if you feel like some of these are not applicable to you. You can always state, for example, that your selected venues are accessible to people with disabilities. And you can provide a list of measures that are already in place in those venues. You can provide explanation on how your way of working or sourcing your materials is the best possible in green efforts. You can address any important decisions that might not be cost effective, let's say, but are made in order to produce the project in a more ecological way. Don't dismiss these topics. This is where the dialogue with partners is so important. You can compare your perspectives. You can find the proper words to describe your approaches and your specific situations. Quality of partnerships. In this aspect, we would like you to be as direct and as precise in describing your cooperation. So before submitting, talk with your future partners about how your organizations work, who are your people. Talk about how they can divide the workload, how they will be in touch with each other, and how the sharing of knowledge, skills, and experiences will actually happen in real life. So the scale of engagement is very important. Because what we are looking for is to widen your audience. So the expected audience size and number of local presentations will be taken into consideration. And this, of course, depends on your budget. We don't want to discourage smaller scale projects. This criteria will be taken into consideration in the whole context of the project. Finally, the criteria of impact. Overall impact and sustainability of the project. We understand that the future impact is sometimes difficult to imagine beforehand, but we need you to consider all the sides of the project, like what do you expect the impact will be to your audiences? And always think about how it would be possible to measure or capture this impact. What will the impact be for your own organization? If you are unsure, I can once again point you to our knowledge base library at zmina.eu. There you can already find a video session named Foundation of Impact, and you will find a very beginner-friendly approach to measuring and evaluating your activities. The same goes for sustainability. Think about how you can continue with the project after Zmina Resilience. Is it perhaps possible to make your project sustainable with ticket sales, or is it possible to keep the project available by any digital means? How will you share your new experience and skills with the cultural sector? So write down your plans for future presentations of these co-created results beyond the project periods and be as specific, as realistic as possible. Finally, we're almost at the end, so thank you for sticking with us until now. Now the question worth 50,000 euro is how to apply. Well, you do this via Izolacja online platform, and you can go to zmina.eu, find the open call information, and there you will be redirected to the platform itself. So you register and you create a new application where you can see all the necessary fields. You have to apply no later than 23:55, which is 1 minute before midnight, Kyiv time. This is very important because the platform is running on Kyiv time on the last day of the current round of deadlines. Your application for the whole project with multiple partners is submitted by just one partner in the project, and this one will be a representative of the consortium. And we call it the lead applicant. The language of the application is English. Here you can see the indicative timeline, and you can see the call was announced on June 15. The first deadline is scheduled for September 14. The later deadlines will most probably be on the dates that you see today, but make sure to always check this information on the open call site. To give you an idea about the process of evaluation, in the lower table, there you can see what you can expect to happen after you submit your application and after the deadline passes. So there's technical and expert evaluation. It will happen within the first month after the deadline. The results will be concluded and will be made public within 2 months after deadline. It's the same time frame you can expect to get all the paperwork from Izolacja. And then after signing a grant agreement, you have 7 months to implement your project. Now, this is the time that we really hope that you will scan the QR code or check the chat, because Mikhailo from Izolacja already sent it in the chat somewhere up. You will also receive this link in the email after we finish this event. And we really hope that you give us your honest feedback about this event, if we gave you enough information and if it was properly presented. And the final slide of this presentation is how you get in touch with us. Always use only this email, hi@zmina.eu. But it is important to know that there are periods of time when there are a lot of requests for help and clarification. So they have 2 working days to reply to your requests. Use the platform .izolacja.org, where you can find frequently asked questions, templates, and where you apply for this open call. Zmina.eu is our overall website where you can find the mentioned library of topics. You can find all the information on this open call. You can find inspiration in a way of our previous project that was called Zmina Rebuilding. There are a lot of stories of successful projects in the website. So you can also use this as a way to find partners abroad. And if you have any more questions, I can see that there were a lot of them in the chat. I will leave the call on for you to check or maybe copy paste it somewhere if you are interested. But for more detailed answers and time with Izolacja team, they are holding weekly Q&A sessions on Zoom platform. And you can find the registration in the presentation. Once we send it to you, you can go to zmina.eu. It's available there, and register for the next Tuesday. It's always Tuesday. Okay, so the presentation is over. Thank you very much for joining, for your questions. And thank you, Oksana, thank you, Paulina, for your parts in the presentation. At this point, I will be stopping the recording of this session, so it's officially over. Thank you very much.